Aging is one of life's greatest privileges. It is a journey that not everyone gets to experience. But here's the thing, just because we're getting older doesn't automatically mean we're getting wiser. I've seen far too many people, including close friends and family members, fall into traps that slowly but surely chip away at what should be their most fulfilling years. These mistakes can turn what should be our golden years into a time of regret, isolation, and disappointment. As someone who has spent years working with seniors and witnessing both the triumphs and struggles of aging, I can tell you this with absolute certainty: your later years can be the most meaningful, joyful, and purposeful chapter of your life. But only if you're aware of and actively avoid certain critical mistakes that too many people make. Today, I'm going to share 7 mistakes that can sabotage your golden years, and more importantly, how to avoid them. Let's start with the first mistake, and it's one that breaks my heart every time I see it happen: surrendering to social isolation. You see, it often starts so subtly that many don't even notice it happening. Maybe you stop accepting dinner invitations because you're tired, or you don't join the community center activities because you don't know anyone there. Perhaps you've convinced yourself that it's just easier to stay home, watch TV, and avoid the hassle of socializing. The problem is, this kind of isolation snowballs. One declined invitation leads to another, and before you know it, weeks have passed without meaningful human contact. Your phone rings less frequently, the holiday cards dwindle, and suddenly you find yourself in a world that feels increasingly smaller and lonelier. What makes this particularly devastating is that humans are inherently social creatures. We need connection like we need air to breathe. When we isolate ourselves, we're not just missing out on pleasant conversations, we're depriving ourselves of essential emotional nourishment. Research has shown that social isolation can be as damaging to our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risk of depression, accelerates cognitive decline, and even weakens our immune system. But here's what's crucial to understand: social isolation in old age isn't inevitable. It's a choice, even though it might not feel like one. Yes, circumstances change. Friends move away, loved ones pass on, and mobility might become more challenging. But there are always opportunities for connection if we're willing to look for them and, more importantly, reach out and grasp them. The solution isn't to force yourself to become a social butterfly overnight. It's about making small, consistent efforts to maintain and build connections. This might mean calling one friend or family member each day, even if just for 5 minutes. It could mean joining a book club at your local library, where you'll find people who share your interests. Perhaps it's volunteering at a community garden, where you can work alongside others while enjoying the fresh air and sense of purpose. Remember, meaningful connections don't always require grand gestures or elaborate plans. Sometimes it's as simple as chatting with your neighbor while getting the mail, or joining a weekly coffee group at your local community center. The key is to make connection a priority, not an afterthought. Now, let's talk about the second mistake that can devastate your golden years: neglecting physical wellness. This goes far beyond the usual advice about eating right and exercising. What I'm talking about is a fundamental shift in how many people view their health as they age, a shift that can have catastrophic consequences. Too often, I see people adopt what I call the inevitable decline mindset. They start attributing every ache and pain to just getting old. They stop moving because movement becomes uncomfortable, not realizing that this very choice accelerates their physical decline. They dismiss new symptoms as part of aging, instead of getting them checked out. In essence, they surrender to a self-fulfilling prophecy of deterioration. This mindset is particularly dangerous because it leads to a cascade of poor choices. When you believe decline is inevitable, you stop taking preventive measures. You might skip regular checkups, thinking, "What's the point?" You might give up activities you once loved because they've become challenging, rather than finding ways to modify them to suit your current abilities. You might stop paying attention to your nutrition, falling into the trap of convenience foods that provide little nourishment. But here's what decades of research has shown us: while aging is inevitable, the rate and way we age is not. Our bodies are remarkably resilient and adaptable, even in our later years. Studies have shown that people in their 80s and 90s can build muscle strength through regular exercise. Our cardiovascular health can improve at any age with appropriate activity. Our balance and flexibility can be maintained or even enhanced well into our golden years. The key is to shift from viewing physical wellness as a luxury to seeing it as a fundamental necessity. This means being proactive rather than reactive about your health. It means getting regular checkups and not dismissing new symptoms as just age. It means finding ways to move your body every day, even if it's just gentle stretching or a short walk around the block. It means nourishing your body with wholesome foods that provide the energy and nutrients needed to maintain your health and vitality. But perhaps most importantly, it means listening to your body without surrendering to its temporary limitations. If your knees hurt when you garden, don't give up gardening. Find ways to modify how you do it. Use raised beds, get a good kneeling pad, or try container gardening. If traditional exercise feels too strenuous, try water aerobics or Tai Chi. The goal isn't to push yourself to exhaustion but to maintain consistent, appropriate activity that keeps your body functioning at its best. Let's move on to our third critical mistake, and this one might surprise you: financial carelessness in retirement. Now, you might think that after decades of working and saving, you've earned the right to relax about money matters. And while it's true that you deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor, financial carelessness in your golden years can quickly transform retirement from a time of peace into a period of constant stress and worry. Let me paint you a picture I've seen too many times. Someone retires with what they believe is a comfortable nest egg. They've done the basics, saved diligently, paid off their mortgage, maybe even set up a retirement account. But then they fall into what I call the retirement spending trap. They start treating their retirement savings like an endless resource, not fully grasping how long that money needs to last. It often starts innocently enough. Perhaps it's treating the grandkids a bit more generously than planned, or taking that dream vacation you've always wanted. Maybe it's helping adult children with their financial struggles, or upgrading to a newer car because, well, you've earned it. Each individual decision seems reasonable, even admirable. But without careful planning and boundaries, these choices can slowly erode your financial security. What makes this mistake particularly dangerous is that unlike your working years, there's usually no way to replenish your savings once they're depleted. You can't simply pick up extra shifts or look for a better paying job. Your financial resources in retirement are often fixed, and they need to last not just for years, but potentially for decades. But there's an even more insidious aspect to financial carelessness in retirement: vulnerability to scams and poor financial decisions. Sadly, seniors are often targeted by sophisticated scammers who prey on their desire to help others or their worry about having enough money for retirement. These scams can range from fake investment opportunities to fraudulent charities, and they can devastate a retirement nest egg in the blink of an eye. The solution isn't to become miserly or to live in constant fear about money. Instead, it's about developing a realistic, sustainable approach to your finances in retirement. This means creating a clear budget that accounts for both regular expenses and unexpected costs. It means having honest conversations with family members about financial boundaries. Most importantly, it means staying educated and alert about your financial decisions, rather than letting your guard down just because you're retired. Now, let's talk about the fourth mistake, one that's becoming increasingly crucial in our modern world: resistance to technology. I can already hear some of you saying, "I've lived this long without all these gadgets, why should I start now?" But here's the truth: in today's world, refusing to embrace technology isn't just about missing out on convenience, it's about potentially compromising your independence and quality of life. Think about how much of our daily life now revolves around technology. Banking, shopping, healthcare, connecting with family, all of these have significant digital components. When you resist learning these new tools, you're not just making life more difficult for yourself, you're gradually cutting yourself off from essential services and opportunities for connection. I remember working with a gentleman who proudly declared he'd never need a smartphone or computer. He was adamant about doing everything the old-fashioned way. But as time went on, he found himself increasingly frustrated and isolated. His grandchildren's photos were shared in family group chats he couldn't access. His bank started charging extra fees for paper statements. His favorite stores moved their best deals online. Even his doctor's office began using a patient portal for appointments and test results. But what really opened his eyes was when the pandemic hit, and suddenly, digital connections became lifelines. Those who were comfortable with video calls and online shopping adapted much more easily than those who weren't. It was a stark reminder that technology isn't just about convenience, it's about maintaining independence and connection in a rapidly changing world. However, let me be clear, embracing technology doesn't mean you need to become a tech expert or spend hours on social media. It's about learning the basic digital skills that can enhance your life and keep you connected. Start with what matters most to you. Maybe it's learning to use video calls to see your grandchildren's faces. Perhaps it's mastering online banking to better manage your finances. Or it could be learning to use health apps to track your medications and appointments. The key is to approach technology with curiosity rather than fear. Yes, there will be a learning curve, and yes, it might feel frustrating at times. But remember, every tech-savvy person you know started as a beginner. The difference is, they kept trying. They weren't afraid to make mistakes or ask for help. And most importantly, they recognized that in our modern world, digital literacy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for maintaining independence and quality of life. Consider taking a class specifically designed for seniors at your local library or community center. Many of these programs understand your specific needs and concerns and can teach you at a comfortable pace. Don't be afraid to ask younger family members for help, but be clear about what you want to learn. Often, the biggest barrier isn't the technology itself, it's the fear of looking foolish or making mistakes. Remember, adopting technology isn't about changing who you are or abandoning traditional values. It's about adding new tools to your life that can help you stay independent, connected, and engaged with the world around you. In many ways, it's similar to learning to drive a car. It might seem daunting at first, but once mastered, it opens up a world of possibilities. Let's explore our fifth critical mistake, one that runs surprisingly deep: clinging to outdated roles and refusing to adapt to life's natural evolution. This isn't just about job titles or family positions, it's about the fundamental way we see ourselves and our place in the world as we age. You know, I've met countless individuals who built their entire identity around their career: the successful lawyer, the dedicated teacher, the skilled craftsman. Then retirement comes, and suddenly, that carefully constructed identity seems to crumble. They find themselves struggling with a simple question that shouldn't be so devastating: who am I now? But it's not just about careers. Maybe you've always been the family problem solver, the one everyone turns to in a crisis. Or perhaps you've been the caregiver, the strong one who never needed help. These roles become so deeply ingrained that when circumstances change, when your children become capable adults, when your own health requires you to accept help rather than give it, it can feel like losing a part of yourself. I remember working with a woman who had been a high-powered executive for over 3 decades. She'd always been the decision-maker, the one in control. After retirement, she couldn't accept that her adult children might have valid ideas about her care and living situation. Every suggestion was met with resistance, not because the ideas were bad, but because accepting help felt like admitting defeat. Her inability to adapt to a new role in the family created tension that didn't need to exist. The truth is, holding on to outdated roles doesn't preserve your dignity, it diminishes it. It's like trying to wear clothes that no longer fit. You can force them on, but they'll only make you uncomfortable and prevent you from moving freely through life. The real strength, the real dignity, comes in having the courage to grow and evolve as life changes. This doesn't mean you have to abandon everything that defined you. If you were a teacher, maybe you can mentor young people in your community. If you were a caregiver, perhaps you can share your wisdom with others facing similar challenges. The key is to take the essence of who you are, your values, your wisdom, your experience, and find new ways to express them that fit your current circumstances. Think of it like replanting a mature tree. You don't change its essential nature, but you give it new soil to grow in, new ways to flourish. Sometimes, what feels like a loss of status can actually be an opportunity for growth, for developing new aspects of yourself that you never had time to explore before. Now, let's address our 6th mistake, and it's one that silently steals the vibrancy from too many people's golden years: neglecting mental stimulation. This goes far beyond the occasional crossword puzzle or weekly bridge game. I'm talking about the vital importance of keeping your mind actively engaged in learning, growing, and exploring new horizons. Many people make the mistake of thinking that mental decline is an inevitable part of aging, so why fight it? They settle into comfortable routines, watch the same shows, have the same conversations, and slowly but surely, their world begins to shrink. Their minds, like muscles left unused, begin to atrophy not from age, but from lack of use. But here's what fascinating research has shown us: our brains maintain the ability to grow, adapt, and learn new things well into our later years. This concept, known as neuroplasticity, means that your brain can continue forming new connections and pathways throughout your life. The key is giving it the right kind of stimulation. Think about it this way: if you had a magnificent garden, would you stop tending it just because some seasons had passed? Of course not. You'd continue nurturing it, adapting your methods to the changing seasons, always looking for ways to keep it vibrant and alive. Your mind deserves the same careful attention. I've seen remarkable transformations in people who embrace this principle. There was a gentleman in his late 70s who decided to learn Spanish. Not just a few phrases, but really learn it. He joined an online language group, started watching Spanish television shows, and even found a conversation partner through his local community center. Within a year, he wasn't just speaking a new language, he was more alert, more engaged, and more excited about life than he'd been in years. The beauty of mental stimulation is that it can take so many forms. Maybe it's learning to paint or play a musical instrument. Perhaps it's taking an online course in history or astronomy. It could be joining a book club that challenges you to read outside your comfort zone. The specific activity matters less than the act of engaging your mind in new and challenging ways. But here's the crucial part: effective mental stimulation isn't just about passive entertainment. Watching television or scrolling through social media might keep you occupied, but it doesn't challenge your brain in the same way that active learning does. Your brain needs activities that require effort, that push you to think in new ways, that maybe even make you a little uncomfortable at first. Think of your mind like a sophisticated computer. If you only use it for the same basic tasks day after day, you're utilizing just a fraction of its capability. But when you introduce new programs, new challenges, new ways of processing information, you keep all its systems running at optimal levels. This kind of mental engagement doesn't just keep your mind sharp, it enriches your entire life. When you're learning and growing, you have more interesting conversations. You develop new perspectives on old problems. You find yourself more connected to the world around you because you're actively engaging with it rather than just observing it pass by. And perhaps most importantly, maintaining strong mental stimulation helps build cognitive reserve. Think of it as your brain's backup system. The more you challenge and engage your mind, the more resilient it becomes, potentially helping you maintain your mental acuity even as you age. Let's talk about the seventh and final critical mistake, one that can cast a long shadow over your golden years: living in regret. This isn't just about wishing you'd made different choices, it's about allowing the weight of past decisions and missed opportunities to poison your present moments and steal your future joy. You know, regret is a peculiar emotion. Unlike sadness or anger, which often fade with time, regret has a way of growing stronger if we let it. It's like a lens that colors everything we see, making us focus on what could have been rather than what still can be. I've seen far too many people spend their precious later years trapped in an endless cycle of if only and what if. Maybe you regret career choices, the job you didn't take, the business you didn't start, the promotion you didn't pursue. Perhaps it's personal regrets, relationships you let slip away, words left unsaid, time not spent with loved ones. Or it might be lifestyle regrets, not traveling when you were younger, not taking better care of your health, not saving more money for retirement. I remember meeting a gentleman who spent his entire retirement consumed by regret over not spending more time with his children when they were young. He was so focused on providing financially that he missed countless small moments. Now, instead of using his retirement years to build new memories with his adult children and grandchildren, he was paralyzed by guilt and shame over the past. The irony was that he was repeating the same mistake, letting precious time slip away while focusing on what couldn't be changed. The danger of living in regret isn't just that it makes you unhappy, it's that it prevents you from seeing and seizing the opportunities that are still in front of you. When you're constantly looking backward, you miss what's right in front of you. It's like trying to drive a car while only looking in the rearview mirror. You're going to miss all the beautiful scenery ahead, and you might even crash. But here's the liberating truth: while we can't change the past, we can change our relationship with it. Every regret carries within it a lesson, a wisdom that can inform how we live today and tomorrow. The key is learning to extract that wisdom without remaining trapped in the emotion of regret. Now, let me bring all of these pieces together and talk about what it really means to live a fulfilling life in your golden years. Because avoiding these 7 mistakes isn't just about preventing problems, it's about creating space for something better, something richer and more meaningful. Think of your later years as a garden. Just like any garden, it needs regular attention and care. You need to pull out the weeds, those negative habits and thought patterns we've discussed. You need to nurture the soil, your physical and mental health. You need to plant new seeds, relationships, interests, and experiences. And most importantly, you need to give things time to grow and bloom. The beautiful thing about this stage of life is that you have something now that you didn't have in your younger years: perspective. You've seen enough of life to know what truly matters. You've weathered enough storms to know your own strength. You've gained enough wisdom to understand that happiness isn't about having everything perfect, it's about appreciating what you have and making the most of each day. Remember, avoiding these mistakes isn't about achieving perfection. It's about making conscious choices that lead to a richer, more fulfilling life. It's about recognizing that while we can't control everything that happens to us as we age, we can control how we respond to it. Let me share a story that beautifully illustrates this. I knew a woman who, at 75, decided to completely reinvent her approach to life. She had spent years isolated, stuck in regret, and resistant to change. But after a health scare, she had what she called her wake-up moment. She realized that while she couldn't change how many years she had left, she could change how she lived them. She started small, joining a walking group at her local park. This led to new friendships, which led to trying new activities. She learned to use a tablet to video chat with her grandchildren. She started a small container garden on her balcony. None of these changes were dramatic on their own, but together they transformed her life. When I last saw her at 82, she was more vibrant and engaged than she had been in decades. This is what I want for each of you watching this video. I want you to understand that your golden years can truly be golden, not because they're perfect, but because you're living them fully and authentically. Every day is an opportunity to make choices that enrich your life rather than diminish it. So let me leave you with this challenge: take a moment after this video to reflect on your own life. Which of these mistakes might be holding you back? What one small change could you make today to start moving in a better direction? Remember, it's never too late to make positive changes, to forge new connections, to learn new things, to find new purpose. Your golden years can be exactly that, golden. They can be filled with warmth, connection, purpose, and joy. But it's up to you to make that happen. It's up to you to avoid these common mistakes and choose a better path. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from these insights. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And remember, the best time to start living your best life isn't tomorrow, it's right now. And as always, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these mistakes resonated most with you? What changes are you planning to make? Let's support each other on this journey toward making our golden years truly golden. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay engaged with life, and remember, every day is a gift, and it's never too late to unwrap it with joy and purpose.